Good Wednesday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in the Macklin Building on the I Love CVille Network on a show presented by Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage. I have seen firsthand what Scott Morris does, guys, getting folks to the closing table, helping them buy and sell homes of their dreams, vacation properties of their dreams, refinance programs of their dreams. Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage. Judah Wickhauer, the director, the enterprising producer of the program. Keith Smith, the star of the show. Let's welcome our distinguished gentleman, Judah Wickhauer, please. Let's have that shot for you ready to go. And of course, Scott, it looks like will be joining us in T-minus 7 minutes. Que pasa, amigo?
Que pasa, amigo? He's doing something really important, right? Donuts with Dad.
Donuts with Dad.
There you go,
Respect.
man.
That's the most important.
Absolutely. This little stuff that we do here is important, but that comes first. So look, I'm waiting for a bated breath for Scott to come on in because we started this conversation on Monday about this little, let's call it a hiccup that's been going on in some of these investment banks, and I'm really curious from his take on it if that is migrating into the mortgage end of it. So I usually ask the question of, how's your mortgage applications going and so forth and so on. I can tell you from the market perspective, real estate market, local anyway, and look, all real. I'm reading a bunch of articles, reading up on this, and our dear friend Dr. Lisa Steravant, her quote says, "It's super important to monitor the facts on the ground because every real estate market is still and always will be local."
Oh,
so stuff that we've been talking about all the time about local markets and local real estates matter. And you should kind of keep an eye on the big board in the left, or your right, my left over there. But at the end of the day, what local kind of matters here. So the local market is, man, it's just flying. I was looking, and we could take it wherever you want after this. I was just looking the last 3 days. I mean, last 3 days we put 50 homes on the market.
how many units? First question I got to ask in this market is how much inventory we have for sale. Active inventory for sale. That's the number one thing people should care about. And as we discussed on Monday, we did a show on Monday where we asked the feed, viewers and listeners, to take us in any direction that you wanted to go. And on Monday, the feed wanted to go down the route of Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, First Republic Bank, and the bank runs that were happening late last week into early this week. And I'll stand by it. I said this Monday, I'll say it again. I think the impact these bank runs will have from a Charlottesville standpoint is perhaps Jerome Powell not being as hawkish with rates and raising rates to for a half a percentage point. Maybe he comes in at a quarter percentage point.
So it's not even you.
That would impact Charlottesville. That's the extent. I said this on Monday, I'll say it again. The extent of Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic, and Signature Bank, and the tumultuous 4 or 5 days that they have had impacting this community is potentially Powell not raising rates as aggressively as he could have had this bank difficulty not have happened.
So it's not even us. It's everything from Dr. Yoon to Lisa Steravant. All these economists are basically saying the same thing. If it wasn't for that, we would probably be staring at a half a point right now.
And I think that's a positive we can take from this. Said that Monday, I'll say it again.
Yeah.
I think that's a positive we can take from this.
But
Yancey's asking about the Credit Suisse news. And
yeah.
Did you see that?
I was actually listening to BBC on the way in because I like the accent. It sounds pretty cool, and I always sound so much smarter after I listen to that. So Europe, I think, is in a it's going to be far worse space than we are. And I just kind of know a little bit about this because I have family there, and we talk to them on a regular basis. But I'm going to stand, you're standing by that. I'm going to stand by what I was said 6 months ago, 8 months ago, even a year ago. Inflation is what's going to be hurting. If anything's going to negatively impact particularly the housing market, it is going to be inflation. I think what's going on in Credit Suisse, according to the article I listened to, according to the BBC piece I listened to, it's much like I think what was going on with some of these Western banks, but one of them was New York for sure. They were just making some bad bets in some bad spots, and it's probably caught up with them a little bit on it. But again, once Scott rolls in, I really like to kind of get a feed on what's happening at the grassroots level, at the impact, if any, on the 30-year mortgage. There's an article I've gotten here that I didn't read, and I also want Scott's read on it. It looks like the 40-year mortgage is getting back into play.
Oof.
Yeah. So, he dropped the keys on that.
We got Scott Morris moments away. He's heading to the green room for his gift bag, much like the Academy Awards. We give gift bags to our guests who come on the program. Scott Morris, in a matter of moments. I want to create a piece of content here for Keith Smith, Judah Wittgauer. Keith Smith, you have Central Virginia at your disposal. Talk to us about the market. Where are you seeing the real estate market right now, my friend?
So I'm still going to stick by my guns that locally, and agreeing with you, locally, what's happening out in California, maybe over in Europe, I don't think at the moment is going to migrate itself to impact our market. I'm just looking at the last 7 days. We're at 107 pending, 70 new. So we've been staying flat between 60 and 70, sometimes 50 units on the market. I just think at the end of the day, this is the absolute right time to sell a home. It's interesting. I had a conversation with a president yesterday of a financial services company up in Northern Virginia, and he asked me the question. This guy has a PhD in finance, and he asked me the question, is this a good time to sell? And I was like, well, first of all, tell me why you think that. And he says, well, the market is bad. I said, no, it's not. There's only 70 homes on the market that came on the market the last 7 days, and 107 went on. There's more coming off than going on. So if this is the time to sell, this is the time to buy. And I just think Scott just wandered in here. I just think now's the time to do this.
There you go, Judah Wittgauer. Cut that into a sizzle reel piece of content. Scott Morris is in the mix on a Wednesday. Donuts with Dad, did it go well?
Yeah, man.
That's good.
Preschool, loving, ton of little kids. Girls super excited, coloring rainbows, taking St. Patty's Day pics in front of the little thing they had up. All the stuff, man. It was great.
Toughest question I'm going to ask you today. Which donuts did you buy and bring in for Donuts with Dad at preschool?
They were provided.
Which one did you pick?
And so it was Knackles, a little bakery there in Culpeper. The girls went chocolate frosted. I went traditional glazed.
There you go.
I would have bet money that you were a glazed guy.
Yes.
It's hard to go wrong with the glazed donut.
So I'm Krispy Kreme glazed is like
your
OG,
pinnacle,
the OG classic. Like if you're there when they're warm coming off, like there's not a better product. Like and if you're out there and you're a Dunkin' fan, I'm sorry for your life.
So what is your favorite, Jerry?
Scott's. I'm kind of tight with Scott here. I feel like there's two different kinds of good donuts. There's the craft donut, if you may, which gets fairly elaborate with toppings and inside fillings and types of texture.
I mean,
and then there's the mass produced.
Cool, but that's like when I walk into like the.
It's Riverside versus Citizen Burger Bar.
Yeah. But when and I'm gonna take Riverside, over Citizen every day when it comes to it's like walking into these these little bougie brunch places and you ask for a Bloody Mary and they come with like a rotisserie chicken on top.
Well, no, you don't like the bacon strip?
Hold the time out.
I'll do a bacon strip and a pickled a green bean. That's about as fancy as I get.
So I actually set a timer for the first time the word chicken would show up.
Okay.
And it literally took 3 minutes.
All right.
One of our presenting partners of Real Talk with Keith Smith, Stephanie Wells Rhodes of Interstate Service Company, says one of her team members, and this is also at American Pest, one of her team members, Robbie at American Pest, is very busy for March. He's doing 8 to 10 WDIs a day.
Yeah.
8 to 10. So she's on American Pest and Interstate Service Company on the supply chain of housing locally, and they're saying that the market's on fire right now. Why don't we get Scott Morrison for the first sizzle reel here, Judah Wickower. Show is yours. I have a feeling he's going to bring some ammunition today on a Wednesday. He always does. Where do you want to start?
I chimed in on Monday's show that I think the bank drama was oversold, and that showed up yesterday. And then right now we've got the Credit Suisse, which is driving things kind of back in that same trend. But I think really what we're seeing is not so subject to what's happening with the banking industry, but that so the Fed tells us when rates are going up, and the markets tell them when it's time to stop. And I think that we very likely will get another 25 BIP increase, but that's kind of at most. I think we're about to see a pause, and we should see them. And the market's pricing in rate cuts starting in June. I say it probably doesn't happen until September, under the theme that nothing happens as fast as we think that it does. But I sat down in front of a historical, mortgage rates are falling, and last week we were talking about, oh my gosh, we're back in the 7s. Are they here to stay? I'm sticking to my 4% range, so 4.875, or there.
Anything with a 4.
Anything with a 4 by the end of the year. I think we're there. We're headed in that direction. All the things. There's so much to unpack right now about what's going on. Maybe let me get settled in. We'll do a clear thought for something more geared towards a sizzle reel, but that's kind of a synopsis of what I see happening.
I think that's a good sizzle reel right there. Make sure that one gets out today, because that's a timely one, please, sir. I said, on Monday, I said how this impacts Charlottesville and Central Virginia is maybe rates not being as aggressive when Powell makes another rate announcement. That's what I said here. We do have viewers and listeners. How we got on the banking topic on Monday, Keith came in and said, let's go where the feed takes us. The feed was inundated with the banking issue. Travis is watching right now. He watches a lot of our shows. He's a smart guy. Travis Hackworth in Danville. He goes, I also wonder, Scott, how this banking problem is going to affect both residential and commercial lending. So multiple people are asking this question.
So, I don't think it does, period.
And why is that?
Because what we're seeing in these isolated pockets are not the companies that are writing mortgages.
There you go.
What it could affect is in those pockets and regions where these companies are holding payroll at these banks is a bigger picture of what it does to small business, again, in small pockets around the country.
So there's an article that Dr. Lisa Sturtevant dropped.
She's the economist of Bright.
That dropped this morning. Could bank busts be a boon for real estate? In this case, it was focused around agents on that end of it. Boon's a big word, but
How could this impact agents?
Well,
driving people to get in the field?
How it impacts agents is, I just looked at the last 7 days to Mrs. Wells' comment. We got 26 that went pending just in the last 24 hours in our footprint. That's a lot of contracts that went pending, which means they're doing the WDI.
But how does the
time
bank
out.
issue influence pending contracts? That's what I want to know.
Like blow the whistle. I think that is a super motivating headline for people who had bad feelings in the industry. Outside of that, I don't think that it does.
You're saying that's clickbait. That's what you're saying.
100%.
Okay.
If we look back a week ago when rates were in the 7s, Keith has clients that were still losing out to multiple offer situations. I met with a friend.
6 figures over.
I had a friend of mine who had 140 showings and 52 offers on one of his listings.
Jesus.
What's
the price
that's
point?
when we were over 7%.
What was the price point?
Stop it, bro. 500,000.
Yeah.
And so don't. I mean, yes, I think this is going to be a boon for rates and activities, and this goes back to what I was saying all along, is that as we trend downwards and get more stable, we're going to give sellers a reason to get back into the market. That is a boon for agents. That is a motivator. That does all the things, but let's not sit here and pretend like we aren't. There aren't so many buyers right now that we weren't seeing activity before.
That's one of the best CVille Realty's ever done. Look at that. Judah's already marking the slot there. That's number 2. Passion and clarity right there from Scotty Moe, Keith Smith.
Yeah, so to add context to that, obviously when you see that and you read in,
You click it.
You
clicked it, didn't you?
Well, this is
He printed it and
this
clicked
is
it.
this is Reese Media, so I get these things into my email. This is not a
Well, you're a Hall of Famer with that.
I'm a Hall of Famer. I'm a newsmaker with
Yeah.
them. But you take a dive into it, and I'm 6 years old, so I'm old school. I print it and make notes on it and put little
You take it to the
stickies.
think tank.
Yeah, that's actually what I did. It's super important to monitor the facts on the ground because every real estate market is and always will be local. So to your point, this is actually a national headline, but when you take a drill down to it, it's local. And in local, the last 24 hours, we put 26 on the contract, but only 16 came on.
Okay, so we're all in agreement at this table that rates are not impacting the selling of real estate because the pool of buyers is so deep.
Do you still feel that?
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Are rates impacting the willingness to list homes for those of us that have rates secured on a 30-year fix that is minuscule? Is that happening?
That is a great question.
Someone who has a 30-year fixed at 2.75, what's their motivation to list?
So the
That's
couple
the
of
question.
trees I killed here this morning, there is an article about that is actually New York Times wrote about exactly that it kind of echoed what we've been talking about, this 3%, 2% mortgage rate, though great for the folks that bought it, is ultimately impacting the overall market, right? Because those folks, unless they have to, aren't migrating out because there's just nothing for them to buy on that end of it. But at the end of the day, as Scott has said, and we have said numerous times, a huge percentage of people buy and sell because of life changes, not because of an interest rate. We have on our end of it, on our buyer side, not anybody's talking to us about, well, interest rates are too high. They're just like, okay, we're going to get in. Scott's right. We're going to refi down. Are you still having those conversations?
Absolutely. That's. So, in fact, I had a conversation yesterday on, somebody who's spending around $30,000 a year in rent, going, well, I don't know. I said, okay, well, let's say that you were spending $40,000 a year in a mortgage at the price point that you're looking at. Would you rather be putting that into equity and then refinancing into a lower rate as, 2 years from now or a year from now, as opposed to pushing $30,000 a year out the window that you're not getting back in any form? Like you can't sell your rental that you don't own and recover any of those funds as you move forward. What do you think makes the most sense? And it's like, well, I hadn't really thought about it like that. And you see that it's you've got to see what are your long-term goals. What are you looking to get out of all of this?
Well said.
So on next Wednesday, we're going to be doing. We're penciling it out as a name of how to win in today's market. But we are now starting to have conversations with buyers, and this word frustration is popping into it now, right? They're getting frustrated. They're getting, I'm out. I don't want to do this game no more. And part of what we're going to talk about next Wednesday is to help people stay in the game. And now's the time to stay in it. But, these are conversations that we're having at the kitchen table or Zoom or via the phone that I've lost my 20th, I've lost my 12th, I've lost my 5th. Well, that's what we're up to. Deals in certain locations, that's what we're up to. And keeping that person or couple motivated is a skill set that we have to all bring to the table. Are you hearing any frustration out there with folks that you're talking?
I mean, I've had people who've been frustrated for 2+ years, depending on what they're looking at. Like you've got frustrations from the level of I was trying to make this happen, and the prices have gone up, rates have gone up.
I'm losing the cash.
Yeah, there's multiple levels of who's going through what in this process. One of the biggest frustrations is how do I make this work? that's where we get into our specialty products. I saw somebody locally in the area. Again, everyone who does what I do is a unicorn and the best that's ever been in the business. Advertising that they've got a zero down product that goes to 160% of AMI. I was like, I've been advertising that for a year. It's things like that, and as more people reach out for those tools to help people get through these frustrating times, because then that takes, if you can borrow, if you're an earner who has saved some money but not enough for closing costs, you could then make a 100% down offer with the loan and be able to pay your own closing costs to make a better offer, to make a more attractive offer to the seller. Then it's a lot, and it's very overwhelming, can feel overwhelming. It can feel overwhelming if you're a professional and you're in this business and you're going through it for the first time. Much less for somebody who has, no impact, no idea of what this experience is like, and they're just getting into it.
So back to the could banking bust be a boon for real estate agents? And one of the other quotes from the good doctor was, this is an opportunity for agents who focus on skill sets, tool sets, and mindsets. It's going to be more important than ever because consumers are going to be confused by this, and we are going to need to be there to educate them.
Do you feel the realtor trade has been more commoditized than ever right now?
Try that a different way.
Is the service you provide more
Value?
competitive and shopped than ever before?
When you have companies like Redfin and Zillow who have turned it into a next
price war.
No, not even a price war.
No.
An attention war,
That's
and a value war, so that the consumer doesn't see the value in the professional. They think that the next opportunity is the next click away, but they still find themselves confused and frustrated with the process because they don't have someone that they can reach out and contact and have a real conversation with.
I understand that. That's a great answer to that. I'm hearing from colleagues of yours that the shopping is happening now.
So that's a difficult question for me to answer, because I actually looked at our first quarter numbers versus the first quarter of 2022. Yes, Realty Partners, we're up 30%.
First quarter of this year, you're up 30%
in dollar volume
over a quarter of last year.
That's exactly right.
How about and sales volume? How about inventory sold?
Well,
because the price points are higher, so if you're going year over year,
yeah.
obviously
we're about 16.
Sales volume is going to be higher.
Yeah. So we're about 12 to 15% sales per unit, dollar value.
So 15% down in units sold.
Oh no, the number of units are staying actually we're increasing.
In 2023, you've sold more units.
We sold more units gross, we have more dollars by 30%.
YRP should be really happy.
We are very happy, but the question is why?
Yeah.
Right. And so to your point, and I generally don't like patting myself on the back. So that was not a look to Scott Gott's point. Look at me. I'm just stating, I'm using that as a fact that I think, and to quote the good doctor here, if you're a professional, you know how to do your job, you will do well in this business. The folks that can't, won't. That's just the reality of business. But I ran numbers. I was a bit surprised. We are up 30% in total volume sold. And
I would expect you would be up in sales volume, like total dollars sold, because of the appreciation of real estate year over year. The houses are more expensive.
Yep.
The fact that I'm really impressed with,
but not 30%,
is you've sold more inventory in Q1 of this year than Q1 of last year. And really why that's surprising to me is Q1 of last year, rates were in the low threes.
Well, and then if you add a second set of numbers, which I took a look at, from a car footprint, where depending on where you are, because locations matter, right? We're running anywhere between 15 and 30% down car footprint wise in total volume sales. But we're up, and I hope I just didn't jinx myself for the next 3 quarters. But the point I'm trying to make is Real Talk with Keith Smith, Trusted Partners. This is when we are finding in our shop is folks are putting this cell phone down and saying, please help me win the day. And again, that's what Wednesday is going to be about. We're going to bring a bunch of trusted advisors and rotate them through the set so we can help give folks house hacks, for lack of a better term, to learn how to win the day. But this is when a professional shows up. This is not rocket mortgage.
I like careful. Let's like that careful with that term house hacks, because like if you pay attention to the house hacks you see on TikTok are usually mortgage fraud. Just FYI.
What are the house hacks you see on TikTok?
Use a primary purchase government program to get into a home and then turn it into a rental unit and then try to do that again with a different bank. Like there's some crazy stuff.
And that is
under that. I like to kind of the house hacking.
That popped
title
into my head. I'm not a huge fan of it either. Kind of like upzoning, but the reality of it, it's interesting. I had a conversation with a buyer client a couple of days ago, and they were like, well, can we put 2 contracts in simultaneously?
Well, if you want to buy 2 houses,
I said,
you can.
absolutely not a problem if you want to buy 2 houses.
Yeah.
And then
come on, people.
What it is it's a sign of the desperation that they're coming out with this, or they would say, well, let's just get a contract in on it and see how it goes. If I find something else, we'll dump that contract during home inspection or whatever. And I'll have to be honest with you, I'll say this in front of everybody, not with me.
Well, I mean, some people have that strategy. That's a gray area strategy.
Well, I consider it unethical.
Yeah.
But to me, that's ethics matter. And how you do business matters. And if I can't help you navigate which is the right home to put an offer on and pick on it, then I'm not doing my job.
Yeah, well said. And Bill's highlighting a good point. If you're in a 2-bedroom home and the addition of a child creates the need for a 3rd bedroom, rate is not an issue. And that's the point Scott has made all the time. Life events are going to drive the purchase of real estate. We have seen in this market, if you have a house and you list it and it's priced well, it's got good conditions, good features, good location, the person on the other side matters, all those key things, that the homes will sell. The rates are not impacting transactions. Where they may be impacting is folks willing to list their homes and give up their very low rates. That's where it may be having an impact. This question's come in for Grayson, for Scott in particular. Why does Mr. Morris so convinced that rates are going to head into the 4s by the end of the year? What data is he seeing that I am not reading personally? I'm open-minded to learning.
Okay.
And he works in finance.
All right. We've seen 150 BIP decline in the U.S. 2-year in the last 14 days. We are going to see better numbers in the bond market as they affect mortgage rates. We are already seeing them. And as we get through the summer, and again, I've said every week, we're going to go through some volatility. We're going to have some ups and downs. We're seeing that today. Today's a great example of that. But I can tell you that right now, if this trend continues, we'll be quoting certain products in the 5s on a traditional fixed 30-year with little, if any, discount points by the end of this month.
Wow.
So when I check...
Jeez Louise. By the end of this month, we're talking a 2-point delta. Well, not 2 points. 1.5 point and change?
By the end of March.
By the end of March, in 2 weeks.
I'm saying that, yes, absolutely. If this trend continues...
It's interesting because this morning I tracked the 10-year T-bill very closely. This morning, you may be right. This morning, there was
He's been really right on this show. And there's video evidence to back it up.
This morning it was 3.6. Now it's down to 3.4. So in the last 2 hours or 3 hours, it's dropped. It just dropped again.
So the big problem that we've been seeing, or at least saw at the beginning of the week, is that the improvement that we saw in the bond market, even followed by the improvement of mortgage-backed securities, is that investors weren't buying. They were like, we don't want to get burnt by, we drop in what we're going to buy at. And the other thing that needs to improve in the MBS field is yield for what these loans are being purchased at. And that's going to drive some improvement as well. But what will happen is as yield improves, you're going to have banks take a greater. Everybody has gotten so thin to be competitive. As things improve, you'll go through a period where we'll get some serious improvement while everybody kind of, I call the race to the bottom, trying to capture as much as possible. But then as we get a more stable rate environment, we've got more inventory coming on board. You'll see certain institutions taking a bigger rake of that profit, and it'll land on rate sheets for mortgage lending in general.
Well, let's dumb it down for the Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps in the room. So just as he was speaking, I was reading some of the rest of the article from the good doctor. So what she's predicting, and I'll just paraphrase it, if Powell stays at a quarter instead of a half, that bond rate's going to go down even more. Would you agree with that?
I say the quarter sends a little spike. I say that they throw a little taper tantrum. They don't like a quarter. They want to see a pause. Stop breaking things.
And who's they now?
They is
the market.
Investors. The market.
Yeah.
A quarter gets a
He's
little.
got to do at least a quarter.
I think that I think they go a quarter.
My God, can you imagine if he does a half?
That's not.
A half's off the table after SVP and Signature and First Republic.
That's not on the table. If they're going to do a quarter, you're going to see everybody throw a little tantrum.
Or did we just kick the can down the road? And
the can's going to get kicked, but I think the
proverbial can is the management
price,
of inflation.
Right now, what you're seeing in the bond market right now is a potential rate cut in June, which it could happen. Anything could happen, baby.
So you're saying a rate cut in June?
I'm not saying. I'm saying that that's what you're seeing pricing in right now, and I'm saying that I'd say it happens by September, and so that's what's going to cause some of the volatility. Is the market's going to say, this is what we expect, this is what we're seeing, and then when they don't always get what they want, you're going to see some fluctuation. But then as it comes into fruition, you're going to see things continue to fall. We are in a declining rate market.
So I was just reading an article as you're talking. Lumber is dropping. I think Jerry shared with me before the show.
Did you see this stat just came out, and we got a couple of home builders watching the program right now, including one we're close with. Home builders say demand is rising. This article on CNBC 18 minutes ago. Home builder sentiment is up. A monthly gauge of builder confidence in the market for newly built single-family homes rose in March, even though analysts expect it to drop. The only concern the National Association of Home Builders has, their chairman, Alicia Huey, quoted 18 minutes ago on CNBC, this banking fallout. That's literally what she's talking about in the article.
Well, that potentially impacts builders and developers because they're based on line of credits, which...
What she's saying.
Yeah,
now,
that's what she's saying.
But it's not the 30-year mortgage. It's a different...
No, that's... All right, so let's look at these companies that were actually affected by SVB. Silicon Valley Bank, so you're a company, you had... you weren't a startup. Let's say you've been in business for 8 years or thereabouts. You had all your money tied with them. You can't just call the president of the next bank over and say, hey, I need a line of credit for X. This is what things look like. They're scrambling to try to find replacements for their lines of credit, for the payroll, for everything. Though, there were some big companies, but a lot of it was really isolated to the tech sector,
and
the solar sector, the green energy sector.
Crypto?
No, that's different model. But I'm sure that they had some. That was more the bank that went kaput 2 or 3 weeks ago that my brain can't find.
Signature?
No. I'll think of it. But for these larger builders, if they're going to extend a line of credit for their next project, that's where you're going to see the cost of doing so is going to increase because the lending risk has escalated. That's probably they're going to pay. They're just going to pay. They're going to again, everybody's going to throw a tantrum, and they're going to the money's going to cost a little more.
Here's the quote to you, Keith. Literally a quote, National Association of Home Builders. A follow-on effect of the pressure of this banking fallout is the pressure it may have on regional banks, as well as continued Federal Reserve tightening. This will further constrain acquisition, development, and
Yeah.
construction A, D, and C
Yep.
loans for builders across the nation. When A, D, and C loan conditions are tight, lot inventory constricts and adds an additional hurdle to housing affordability.
Correct. It's 100%. And so acquisition and development, I know that world a little bit.
You know it well.
I know it well. Yeah. So the side of the house that is using A and D money, A and D and C money on either of it, this will impact them. But let's be a little clear here. It always impacts them, right? It is part of your business model, right? As things go up, percentages go up and go down, your profit margin goes up and down on that end of it. But what you're seeing is a lot of the local developers, some of the bigger ones, they're all doing it in cash anyway. Their cash positions are extremely strong, and they're doing their acquisition in cash. But I wanted to jump and ask Scott here, because I see it from the street side of it. Why do you think builder sentiment is up?
Why do I think builder sentiment is up? Because of the inventory concerns and because of the humans over rooftop problem that we had going into this inventory crisis.
So
I
what's
think builder sentiment is up because folks now see rates as the new norm, and they're not sticker shocked anymore.
Yeah, the rates is not. I don't think it at all. It's not even on the table. It's the inventory issue, and the conversations we're having on the street is as well. If I can't win at a resale, can I build? Right. That's the conversation we're having. So okay, can I now find? And then you have to have this expectation conversation. Okay, where do you want to be? How much? New construction is going to cost typically more than a resale on it. But that's at the kitchen table level. That's the conversation that we're having. Okay, well, if I can't find something, let me go pick a house on a lot and wait 9 months to get it built. I think that's part of the sentiment thing. We're starting to see an uptick, at least on our phone calls and conversations in new construction. It's kind of a world I know well, so I get other agents from other agencies calling me and asking me, well, how do I write a contract? How do I negotiate this?
I think
this
another
deal?
piece of that is everything is, from a consumer perspective, everything's so expensive in the existing market. What does the cost of a new construction home look like? And that,
More expensive.
well,
That's a great question, Scott. So while you guys are talking, let's see what
You
it
have
looks
those
like.
numbers.
Let's see what
Very
it looks like.
Nice segue there, Keith Smith. Let's highlight comments that are coming in. Michael Plecker watching the program. One of the Shenandoah Valley's finest backstops, the mayor of Pantops. He's doing a little bit of a humble brag here. Imagine that from Michael Plecker, the humble brag. He says,
I don't know. He reminded me yesterday in a meeting that I owe
you owe him a bottle of bourbon.
and it's next Wednesday. It's coming because
Yeah,
he's
you owe him
going
a
to
bottle
join
of
us.
bourbon.
He's going
Although Keith may beat Neil Williamson on this mustache bet. He may, Neil, if
don't
you're
jinx
watching,
me. Don't jinx
you may
me.
lose this bet, Neil.
Do not jinx me.
Plecker said, I'm glad me and Mrs. Plecker moved a big chunk out of the NASDAQ several months ago when we started hearing the tech layoff chatter. Jamie Turner, the mayor of Gordonsville, the impact of TikTok is ridiculous. Scott is right. Everyone thinks they could be a real estate investor, or everyone thinks they should own a Stanley Cup. From Jamie Turner. Trust me, you don't want to be a real estate investor. I mean, you maybe you do, but it's not as easy as it seems. I think everyone at this table can speak to this. Scott has a vacation home in the Outer Banks, and I think it was, 6 months ago, he spent much of his weekend redoing the floors at his vacation.
that was this time last year.
This time last year? Yeah.
was that just an excuse to sneak down?
Fortunately, there wasn't a lot of
There's not a lot of fun on that
fishing.
trip.
A lot of fishing going on
Yeah.
that trip.
He was busting his tail on that trip. Keith, the data you found, what'd you see, my friend?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it, gentlemen.
Paragon is not the swiftest.
You have to actually build
The search criteria out. We do know that.
Each one we're
Speaking
doing.
of things, the cost of things dropping, I think we're seeing oil fall again, and a lot of that. And
I mean, CPI was cool.
PPI was cool. CPI was kind of in line with what they thought it was going to be. PPI cooling this morning. Producer price index, meaning the cost of building things, got a little cheaper, or the cost of making. What was good in the CPI was wages. So the numbers on and I guess I say I feel like we've wage lagged for 30 years, and that's what I mean by good, is that unfortunately wages did not continue to go up. So that was the highlight of the report. But I think and is it today or tomorrow? We've got something else comes out as well.
But do you really think those things, all that data, really impacts our market?
I think it trickles down. Eventually it does.
Yes, I think that is the information that drives the barn market, that in turn creates the motivation for me who owns a home to say, look, things are improving a little bit.
Yeah.
I've got
Consumer
so much
confidence.
equity
Yeah.
that I can sell my house, take a mortgage that's X number of hundreds of dollars higher per month,
There
but
it
know
is.
that I've got six figures from this transaction sitting in the bank to lean back on.
Literally what
going
my wife and
forward.
I are talking about. That I 100% agree. I agree with a lot of what this man says. I've never agreed with the statement more than that one there. That right there, it's called consumer confidence. We're dealing with that right now.
And that's literally these 3 or 4 articles I'm reading. That's the recurring theme. Little fact that I was in a meeting yesterday, running some stats, and the person I was in the meeting with was an elected official. Goes, you should teach a stats class. And then I had to remind them, I didn't go to high school in my last 2 years.
You're street smart though.
Yeah. So interesting. Here we go. Last 30 days, Albemarle County, single family detached. What has sold and closed? Last 30 days back, right? New construction was 12 units closed. Non-new construction, 55. And anybody want to take a gander on the different?
The delta, and we're going median?
The median price. Yep. Mm-hmm.
As it's by your body language. It's freaking massive. Look at Smith's body language. Scott, you want to go first on this one?
495
for existing.
Thank you. That's the word I was stumbling for.
For existing.
760 in new
Jesus, that is humongous.
200. I had to pull up the spreadsheet just to make sure the
That
math
is
was right.
ginormous.
$265,000 delta, a plus of 35%. Now that's single family detached Albemarle County. Just pick that as a
Albemarle County home sales last 30 days, existing construction, median price point, 495,000.
that's single family detached.
Single family detached. New construction, median price point,
760.
760,000. That's massive.
200.
All right, let's talk about that number for a second.
Please.
But we now have people looking at it.
Yeah. But if we had 55 new construction sold, that would drive that number down. We have
agreed.
We have 12, so we probably got we got some big boys driving up to average.
He's using the median.
I understand that we're using the median. I'm saying if we had a larger pool for the new construction,
It would be lower.
you'd have a lower number.
Well, so that brings the fault, and then I was asked, these were folks that are running for the state level, so I was asked not to use their names today on it, but it's really the conversation we're having.
If you write them down, I'll use them.
Oh, you think I can write? The pictures, I can do pictures.
You can write.
I can do pictures.
I've been told not to allow you to do that.
Okay. So, thank you, Yonna. So but the conversation that we were having at the dinner table, at the round table I was at, was, if new construction produces more units, back to your point. So if it was 55 new construction, would that delta still be $265,000? And the answer is no, right? And so, Michael Payne, God love him, because he said this on the dais, I can say this, his comment is that we can't build our way out of this.
No, his comment specifically, we cannot build our way into affordability.
Okay.
And that comment seems to conflict directly with upzoning.
So correct. So maybe affordability, I use a housing affordability. I can't afford a $10 million house, right? But the point is that if we have more, it creates more affordability. It creates more homes that are in the affordable range, right? So more is, this is really simply a fact. It's Econ 101. Last 7 days, 73 came on, 109 went off. We need to generate more units.
Which we will. as we get into a more stable environment, you'll have more people who are willing to list and take the profits from all the equity that they've gained.
Yeah.
Existing units. It's not going to be new construction
Oh.
units.
There's no rabbit for that hat.
Existing would be.
There's no
possible.
what?
There's no rabbit for that hat.
I'm going to steal that. There's
No rabbit
for
for. I got to write that
that hat.
down.
Sorry, we both.
No
He's got a
rabbit
friendly nod over there. Yancey says this is not sustainable. The kind of appreciation that's happening in housing is not sustainable. Prove me wrong, he says.
Yeah, so what's going to happen is the pool of people, and you chime in because you see this more than I do, the pool of buyers of buyers who are able to buy right now is just going to get a little thinner. Does that sound about right?
Sure. Well, wouldn't say that again?
So, in other words, the buyer who can't put a substantial amount of cash down, 10%, 20%, 30%, if the buyer can't put a substantial amount of cash down, that buyer is just not going to be able to compete in today's market. So the pool is just going to get a little bit. No.
No, I don't think so. I think so. You're saying the buyer pool is going to shrink because people who can't.
Because the house is more expensive.
Well, it's either more expensive or
there's less of them.
Or you're now competing, because this is what we're losing, competing against somebody who's bringing enough cash that appraisal doesn't have to kick in.
I mean, he's
right?
losing deals. I don't want to. Let me know if I'm speaking out of turn. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn.
But once you say it, it's too late.
But yeah, you've been saying it on air, so I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. He's losing deals for a surgeon, son-in-law, doctor alone, who's got resources.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're a very specific location,
Yeah.
very specific product type, very specific everything. So the thing about that is that and 50 million other people want that same thing.
Sure.
So again, what we're going to talk about on Wednesday, because actually my daughter's going to sit in that chair.
That's big time.
And talk about this experience on Wednesday.
Next to Scott.
She's going to sit next to Scott to talk about this experience. My granddaughter will be there, so you might end up having to get a kid.
That's okay.
Is the granddaughter going to be on air?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, unless there's a rule.
Well, there's no rule.
There's no rule.
No, there's no rules here.
Yeah, there's three,
You're the only one that's implemented rules here.
Well, there's only three rules.
I have respect for you, so I follow those rules, but sometimes I do. Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, but my point is, to Kevin's thing, is if inventory doesn't climb up, if we're not able to produce, and when I say produce, this is new stuff, because the existing stock is the existing stock. So new homes, if we're not able to substantially increase that, it's just Econ 101. The small existing pool is just going to have more pressure on it. So instead of having 20 feet deep of buyers, it's going to be 15. But there's going to be more buyers that are capable to buy in today's market. If it's at 7%, you said 10, I think, if it didn't get up to 10.
No, he said the double-digit sticker shock would be the one that could potentially tank
Slow
the
it
market.
down a little bit.
Yeah.
It just becomes less people.
Yeah.
So that seesaw needs to balance, and right now it's on the inventory side. But what do I know?
Sir Neil Williamson, comment for Keith and Scott. Additional inventory alone will not solve the affordable housing problem, but it will positively impact housing affordability. More housing everywhere for everyone. Neil
Housing
Williamson.
affordability is the right term instead of affordable housing. Thank you, Neil, for that. But more is always better in a math scenario. But there's other things, right? You always have to have a ready, willing, and able property seller. Local government's going to have to kick in.
Neil Williamson should watch which show with who's coming on?
What?
Friday
Contact.
show coming up?
No.
Have some,
No. Friday is just you and I.
Okay.
That
Is it
is
2 Fridays?
Let me double check, make sure I don't give the wrong information.
Neil, your bet with Keith on this mustache is coming down to the last 90 days here, dude. We got about 90 days left in this bet here. And some folks of the elected variety are saying that Keith is going to win the bet. Just a heads up over there.
That's Yvonne. I'm sorry, we're showing a text of my daughter that just came in. So it is the 31st, the last Friday of this month. I'm going to have Lloyd's. Let me double check that they confirmed. Here.
Last Friday of this month.
Hold on. I don't want to give, because Neil Williamson
Neil's
puts,
problem with that bet was
Yeah, Michael, they both accepted.
Michael Point and Lloyd Snook.
I got Payne and Snook coming in on Friday the 31st.
Was taking the side of the speed that which
Government
could get something done.
100%.
Well, let me defend my dear friend Neil. If there's
I'm
anybody,
just teasing.
if there is any, well, I have to do
just
that.
teasing the government a little bit.
I have to do this.
It's a good tease.
Well, the government, I agree, but if there's anybody in this region that understands that,
Yeah, it's him.
it's
No
Neil.
doubt.
I get
It's
it.
Neil.
I get it.
No doubt. Well, Bill McChesney says, I think Keith is keeping his mustache. You have Grayson saying, I bet Keith wins this bet and keeps his mustache. Time will tell. 90 days left here.
So I'm at live. I came up with an idea, which is never a good thing for Smith. So if it looks like I'm going to lose the thing, maybe I'll shave this off for charity, and we'll see if people will donate money to the land trust.
I don't think people are going to do that.
All right, on the screen
Please
right
talk
now.
with your branding
Oh, hey,
consultant
hold it.
about if that being a good idea.
Scott, we have to talk mustache.
Yeah.
now, okay.
Please talk with your branding consultant before we actualize that idea.
Okay, I retract everything I just said. It
Donate
never
money
happened.
to charity when I shave my mustache.
Well, I'm trying to raise
You're
money.
just laughing over there.
I'm
Scott,
trying to raise
jump
money
in
for
here.
the land trust. I
I
thought
was
it
going
was
to
a good
say
idea.
on the screen just a moment ago, CNBC, to the point of of Grayson going where do you see this happening at? And it shows right now Fed rate of 4.75. It shows a peak rate of about 5.25 in May, and then it shows they're pricing in actual cuts by the end of the year. Now that's showing closer to September.
Who's pricing them in?
Investors in the bond market.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, we got some,
Or a projected dot plot by the Fed.
we have literally, as of now, and it could change, but we're talking some morning carnage with all four of the indices we follow. The Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000 right now is down nearly almost 3 points.
So you know what I would track on that?
Dow is down 1.5 points.
So I'm going to give a shout out to Michael Plecker because he sent me a text early this morning, and I'm going to be tracking it all day today. Track the builder stocks, see how they do
Let's see here.
on that end of it. So I think you're going to see the big indices get pretty hit hard today, but I think things that are related to dirt, and I said this on Monday.
You did say this on Monday. You did.
It's just as I'm not a sophisticated gentleman when it comes to financing and maybe using the right terms and so forth and so on. I just got this from 35 years of doing this, and it's always been the case. When that stuff starts going super red and things start going sideways there, people start pulling their money out of that. The good doctor has a couple of sentences about that.
This ain't
Let me
super
finish,
red.
please. And it goes into dirt.
3 points is pretty bad.
It goes into points.
Neil Williamson says, as a reminder for all the viewers and listeners, the bet was placed on April 15th, 2022. So he wants to remind the viewers and listeners that this bet was put in a long, long time ago.
Totally.
Long,
Okay.
long time ago. That was a long time ago. We're talking a bet that's a year plus running here.
And I want to lose that bet, to be honest.
I
with
know
you.
you do.
I want to
And
lose that
that speaks
bet.
to your character.
I want to lose
it's
that bet.
looking like you may be winning this bet right now.
Yeah, we'll find out on the 31st, and we'll see.
I mean, we're going to straight up ask Mayor Lloyd Snook and Councilor Michael Payne who is going to win this bet.
And if you don't think I've already asked that question, you would be mistaken.
And the scuttlebutt is.
I'm not going to say it. I'm leaving this out there for the 31st.
Here you go. That's called a teaser in the business.
Is it really?
Yeah.
And if you want to be a studio audience, you're welcome to come up.
Love
come
Neil
on.
Williamson. Applications, how are they looking over there?
Good
Scott,
question.
no.
We're up again. And much like it's been, like I said, this year's been really of ebbs and flows, and I think part of it has to do with availability in the market, and kind of what we've seen is so applications have almost tracked inventory to where we'll see some stuff come on. You see people see that stuff's come on, and then there's an interest in activity. Then as the inventory is gobbled up, you kind of get there's a lot of emotions as far as people traveling through this process, as far as what's available and what's not, and that drives activity.
Let me ask you. You are a top performer in what you do professionally. Are other loan officers enjoying similar data point success like you are?
So-
or are you an anomaly here?
So nationally, I mean, there's a lot of struggle with inventory. That's the biggest challenge, and it's not just here. It's everywhere. And the number one thing that you see, there's a lot of people who got into this business who were attached to call centers and refis that are now finding a difficult time
Because they focused on the wrong product.
and I've been relationship and purchase based from, that's how I've built my business.
So what I found the most interesting part of the show so far today, other than nobody asked me what my favorite donut was, but that's okay, is the fact that the WDIs are up, right? So that's wood destroying.
Stephanie Wells Roads.
Yes. So the fact that
Tell them what WDIs are.
wood destroying insects. So it's a report. So every because the lender's going to require it before we close. You've got to have
Pest
Stephanie
inspection.
and you have to have Robbie and you have to have the folks from American Pest go through the home and make sure that there isn't any active live termites at the end of the day. There's also septic walkover, but that's different. If you're out in the county and not on public water and sewer. So if those are up, that just echoes what I've been looking at as far as pendings are up. It echoes what we're doing in our shop as far as volume and sales go. So, that's interesting. That's a good information to hear because, let's face it, Interstate Service Company, basically touches every real estate company in our region, right?
Yeah.
And if they are upticking, that means everybody is upticking across the board. So I found that as an interesting factoid.
All right, well said. Well said. Thank you for bringing that to our attention there. Interstate Service Company, guys, a home's best friend. Mr. Yancey, specifically for Scott, have you had people had to reapply once they've started the process because conditions have changed?
So reapply, we update some documents. One of the questions that we often get is, how long is this approval good for? And my answer typically is, as long as you don't have a change in job or go buy a car or do anything that can affect you credit-wise, it's as good as long as it needs to be. We will update things at the 90-day mark. The reason that we update things in the 90-day mark is because I have to close within 120 days of that original credit report. We also want to confirm that that your income hasn't changed. We're going to update pay stubs, bank statements, that sort of thing to make sure that if we do get under contract that we've got documents that are going to get us through the transaction.
Good answer. Keith Smith?
Just looking at what's pending in the last 7 days, I've been keeping a track on, where are we at with homes that are going under contract that are in high double digits and high double digits and triple digits. Even though the median days on market is 9, when you start plowing through this, we don't get to like the under 30 days on market until about halfway through the 109, somewhere around 50. So what that's telling me, because I had somebody ask me the question the other day, well, hold the time out. If pending's at 109 and coming on is at 70, that math doesn't work, right? How come there's so many pendings? And I said, well, because what's happening is when you're looking at triple digits or 80, 60, 90, anything north of 30 days, they're starting now to come off the market. That means people are now looking at homes that have been sitting in a while, and now they're ready to buy them. So you're going to start seeing, I think, over time, these high double digits and triple digit homes come off the market. So that's something I've been keeping a close eye on.
Now, when you say come off the market, do you mean that they're pulling the listings, or do you think
No,
they're actually getting under contract?
Under contract. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm only looking at pending. So this is homes that actually got a contract on.
Got it.
That Stephanie's and ISC are going to be WDIs on, right? You're eventually going to see some of these, obviously, or already seen some of these. But yeah, it's interesting to start seeing these DOMs drop, and then when we start getting to par where there's not that many coming on and we're kind of equaling the same amount going off, that's not going to be a good thing.
agreed. I do think though, as we get towards a lower rate environment, I think we get to where we're putting more stuff on. But the bottom line is, as that happens, we're also putting more buyers in the pool as well.
Sally Young, for both gentlemen. You guys had talked months ago over the impact of price modifications, changes, reductions. Are they still happening like they were months ago? It's a good question from Sally.
I think that's probably what's getting some of these 30 plus, 100-day plus properties off the market. Is, you know, they're as they get some sort of reduction. But again, it's so interesting. So you get into a little more rural of an area, or that's where I'm seeing concessions for borrowers still. That's where there's deals that are still made to happen. If there's some dated kitchen type area, you know, homes with those types of features, you're seeing some stuff happen as far as reductions and you know, a little kinder to the buyer. But then you get your, you know, in the right neighborhood with all the right things, they're not lowering the price on that. They're having you know 20 offers. So it really just depends on the condition and location of the property are the main things, and what I'm seeing anyways.
Keith Smith.
Location, price, features.
Have we rung that bell before?
We've run that bell.
And it's fun.
We've run that
It's fun that, because he doesn't quite get it in the right order. And I wrote a note here. I'm going to make
I need a post-it note.
I'm going to
or
make
an index card.
Okay, index
Like
card.
Mona's adjective card.
Oh God, yeah.
Laminate for me.
Yeah, no. I still have that in my briefcase. See if I can get your hair on your back up a little bit, which is fun to watch. It's a lot of fun. I have fun anyway. Had something come across my phone which I did not read in great detail. 40-year mortgage. I heard something about they're easing. The FHA or the government has done something with that. Does that ring a bell with you?
I have not seen
okay.
anything related to
So
that.
let's get the 40-year mortgage conversation on and off the table pretty quick. Good or bad for buyers?
I mean,
and does it help with the inventory?
I think I'm going to say bad. You know, like
I don't disagree
7-year
with that.
car notes.
Yeah.
Bad. It will make things more affordable, but it's going to make they're never going to. It'll be
There's going to be no equity accrued.
no equity accrued. It'll take, you know,
An eternity.
an eternity.
And for those that got the
And
7-year
here's-
payments for the cars, and this is coming on the feed here, at the time during the pandemic, they were issuing those 7-year loans for cars with 5 years of no interest. So that would be a different type of loan as opposed to the 7-year where you had 7 years and we're accruing interest the entire 7-year period. But to Scott's point, a 40-year mortgage, good God, where's your equity going to be?
1,000%, unless the play is to get in and refinance it within 2 years. Does the 40-year amortization get my payment down? And I'm doing this for the
To
sake
affordability?
of. I'm doing this for the sake of a talk show.
Yeah.
I agree. 40 years is not a good idea, and I would strongly have folks talk to Scott and make sure they understand what they're getting themselves into before they do. But I'm just trying to make a play here that if I'm losing homes here, does 40-year mortgage help me or don't, right? So in other words, can I go a little higher because it makes my interest rate?
So basically what we're saying is we already have too many buyers for the inventory we have. Let's get more buyers for the inventory we don't have.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it fixes anything. No, I don't think it helps anyone. No, I don't think it's beneficial. And I would be surprised to see if it comes into play. I would think it would probably come into play through a non-QM product before
That's
it would
exactly
come
right.
into the everybody world.
That's what that article was about. It's non-QM stuff. But I feel the same way, and I hope you're right, and I think you will be right. I think that the inventory will loosen up a little bit when you hit your 4 or 5, whatever your magic number is at the end of the year. It's just going to make the pool get deeper, though. The buyer pool get deeper. That's a gimme.
I mean, if it comes in non-QM, it's gonna. There'll be
No, sir. I'm going back to the 4%.
Oh.
I feel the same way about 4%. I don't think it's going to move the needle.
You think it's going to worsen it?
It's just going to put more people in the pool, unless they get frustrated, right?
I think that it creates more sellers. It creates more opportunity.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I really do.
I've said numerous times in the
I
short
won't put
term.
my mustache though on that though.
In the short term,
Neil's
I think
only
it
get my
creates some
mustache.
pain. But as it's sustained, the longer that we see it stick, the more.
But if we all agree, I think we all agree at this table, more isn't more existing. More is more new.
Yeah, because
Right.
existing is not incremental. Existing just exasperates the problem.
Well, it's like
it just trades the houses amongst homeowners.
So why are people moving money out of the stock market into land and dirt? They're not making any more dirt, right? So the existing is the existing stock. Unless we increase that existing stock, it's just. I think the interest rates going down, and I'm happy for it because I want my buyers to have a cheaper interest rate. But I think it's going to put more buyers in the market. It may move the needle just a little bit, existing, but what's inventories? Because what's going to happen is that person who's putting their house on the market now becomes a buyer. So now the buyer pool just gets bigger, right? It's just not an equal balance. Now, unless they're moving to Florida or
if they move out of the area,
out of the area, it's a
yeah, then
different
that's
animal.
an incremental unit.
That's an incremental.
That's an incremental unit. Scott Morris, thoughts for viewers and listeners as we wind down today?
Things are happening. Call your trusted professionals, your advisors, your friends. See how that affects you. If you want to do this, let's go get it done. There's plenty of opportunity to be had. That's my message for the day. There's opportunity out there. Let's go get it.
So as my grandmother used to say, if you throw enough you-know-what against the wall, it's going to stick sooner or later.
Spaghetti?
No, it starts with the S, though. Little shorter word, starts with the S.
Okay.
Chickens do a lot of
Okay.
it.
I thought,
That's the second
reference.
The second reference to chicken.
That's for you, Jamie Turner.
That's a second reference to chicken. And we always got to refer a chicken. But if you throw enough, if you're in the market to buy, stay in the game. This is when you need a trusted advisor. Everybody on the Real Talk with Keith Smith's Partners tab got it. We've got one sitting to my right, to Jerry's left.
He's talking about Scott.
Talking about Scott.
Yeah.
That can get it done and help you get it done. And more importantly, if you can't get it done, you'll tell them. That's sometimes better information from my perspective. So we'll be honest, straight up. This is what we need to do. This is the path you need to take. Stay in the game, because we know this much. Your appreciation is only going to go up. It's not the case when you rent. Did that make any sense, guys?
That was great.
That is absolutely on point.
And oh, by the way, the reason why I think you're going to be right with the interest rate, 2020 recession, we went down 1.208. We went down 1.3 points. 201, we went just a little over a half a point. But I feel like this recession is going to be closer to 1991's recession, which went down 2.2% on the 30-year fixed. I think once we get deeper into this recession, you're going to start seeing interest rates drop. It just historically happens.
Give a plug for the home buyer seminar.
Yeah, thank you. So pretty much more what we normally do, but it's going to be a little bit structured, right? We're going to end up bringing Woody Fincham in. We're going to bring in a couple of real estate agents to talk about that from that perspective. We're going to bring in my daughter to talk about, and she agreed to this, to talk about her experience.
Did she in that text she just sent you?
No. This is something her and I need to have a conversation about. That it's a family matter.
Understood. Okay.
And since he's family, that's the reason I shared it with him.
Okay.
So even though he doesn't want to admit it, but that's what we're going to do, and we're going to kind of talk about.
I admit it. I claim Matthew sometimes, so that's how
That's
much.
Keith's brother.
Oh, is that my brother?
That's Keith's brother.
That's weird. I spend like thousands of % more time with you than I do with him.
Well, Matt. Okay.
Well, he's working.
Yeah. I was going to say that. You're also working.
Oh.
Your
Well, anyway, it's going to be a
your
lot of
daughter
fun.
says, "Am I in trouble?"
Sorry?
She says, "Am I in trouble?"
We have to have a conversation.
Okay, you have to have a conversation.
Which is
that's-
dad speak is for you may be in trouble.
Okay, all right. I hope you're not in trouble.
She's not in trouble. We have to, this text is an opportunity to educate.
Okay, there we go. Judah Wickower, Keith Smith, the educator. Scott Morris moves mountains with mortgages. I'm just Jerry Miller, the guy with the microphone here. This show
Oh,
is...
you're much more than that.
This
Stop
show is a lot of fun for all of us. On Friday, it's Batman and
Robin, yeah, and then
The last Friday of the month is Lloyd Snook and Michael Payne.
Yeah, so we're gonna, the rest of kind of March, we filled in a lot of just you and I, which was a lot of fun. I need that fix. I enjoy the heck out of it. But the end of this month and the beginning of next month, we're going to be loaded with guests. So please tune in, particularly on Fridays. I'm stacking up a bunch of folks that are either sitting in political seats at the moment or running for political seats on it. Plus, we got some people coming from other parts of the state to talk about the real estate market. So I'm really excited about the next 30 to 60 days.
Bravo. The show archived, realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. That's the website, realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Click the Partners tab for the trusted advisors on the supply chain we call real estate. For Scott Morris, Keith Smith, Judah Wickower, I'm Jerry Miller, and it's Real Talk with Keith Smith, presented by Ross Mortgage. The I Love CVille show in 59 minutes. So long. Hold on, boys. Whew.
No.
What's that? Wait, hold on.